Hi, welcome back to Crash Course Theory. Today we're going to be talking about scale degrees and kind of going more in depth on this. I did make a video briefly about scale degrees, but I didn't really go, you guys over here, I didn't really go into a lot of depth with it, so I'm going to do that here. So we're going to just talk about a major scale right now. We're going to take C major because, no sharps, no flats. It just follows that whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half pattern, which is what a major scale is. So we start on C, and we know our middle C is. We'll start on middle C. So we have a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. So that's our major scale. So we have 8 scale degrees. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I talked about how in the last video, each of these, my necklace is backwards. Each of these scale degrees has a name. So 1 is tonic, and it goes back to 1. So really there are 7 scale degrees. So 1 is tonic, and in this case it's C. C equals 1 equals tonic. Now, 2 is the second note in the scale. So in this case, it's D. Again, this goes back to the interval video where the note names, you have to have a different note name for every scale degree. That doesn't make sense. Let me explain. So in the key of C, you're going to have a note for C, a note for D, a note for E, F, G, A, B, right? And you have to have all 7 of those notes accounted for in the scale. So you have, in this case, every single one of them is natural, which means that they are not raised or lowered. They're all white keys, natural. So if we're talking about G major, and G is our 1, our tonic, we have to have G, A, B, C, D, E, and F. And in the sense that we have to keep that whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half pattern, F is not F natural anymore. It becomes F sharp, because E to F sharp has to be a whole step, and E to F is just a half step because they're next door neighbors on the keyboard. So E to F sharp. So you wouldn't say G flat because you need to have all of those note names accounted for. So F, it needs to be some variation of F in the key, in the scale, and so it's F sharp. So you have 7 scale degrees. Going back to C, C is now 1, C is now tonic again. So now we have D. D is 2. D is the supertonic, which means it's 1 above tonic. Pretty self-explanatory. So 1 equals supertonic, 1 equals tonic, 2 equals supertonic, 3 equals mediant. In this case, it's E. E equals 3 equals the mediant, because E is exactly halfway between the tonic, which is 1, and the dominant, which is 5. And that's kind of 5 is the halfway point. It's always going to want to point back to 1 because it has a note in it called the leading tone, which is just 1/2 step under tonic. So if I play the 1 chord, C, in C major, this is the 1 chord, and then I played the 5 chord, which is the G, because C, D, E, F, G, that's 5. You always count from tonic to get to 5. So 1, if I want to go to 5, this is the leading tone, it's in the key, it's in the dominant chord, and it wants to just pull us back to 1, so 1, 5, and that's kind of our authentic cadence, we call it. It's always just leading us right back to home, you know where it's going. Okay, and I'll talk about cadences later, but okay, so we have 1, tonic, 2, supertonic, 1 above tonic, 3, mediant, halfway between tonic and dominant. Now we have the subdominant. And technically you could think of it in terms of being 1 under dominant, which is 5. So subdominant is 4. But the real theory behind it, why it's called the subdominant, is because a dominant is a fifth, right? So if you go to the top tonic, which is the 8th scale degree, and you go 1/5 down, if I were to take a perfect fifth interval, which we talked about in the intervals video, and I were to go down, which is just 7 half steps, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I would go to F, which is the 4th scale degree in the key of C. That gets a little complicated, but that's why it's called the subdominant, because it's one dominant under the 8th scale degree. It's not, but it is also one under the dominant, so you can think of it in terms of that. But if you were to get a question on the test, it says, why is the subdominant called the subdominant? That's not the right answer. It's because it's one dominant under the 8th scale degree. So we have tonic, supertonic, mediant, subdominant, dominant, submediant, again, because it is halfway between the subdominant and the top tonic. So like we have tonic, mediant, dominant, we have subdominant, submediant, tonic, and that makes the 4 chord, which normally pulls us to the 5, which pulls us back to the 1. And that gets into tonal harmony, which I'm doing right now. But so tonic, which is in the key of C, C, supertonic, D, mediant, E, subdominant, F, dominant, G, submediant, A, and now we have the leading tone, which is 1/2 step under C, and in this case it's the 7th scale degree. When we get to minor chords, minor scales, which I'll talk about right after this, you can have 2 variations of 7. But in major scales, you have the leading tone, which is the 7th scale degree, which in this case is B, which pulls us back to tonic. So you can also think of this in terms of solfege, which is just another way of identifying scale degrees, and this helps a lot with sight singing, which is my least favorite thing to do ever. But you have, and Queen Maria von Trapp taught us this back in the day, tonic is Do. A deer, a female deer, a drop of golden sun is the 2nd scale degree. Me, a name I call myself is the 3rd scale degree. Fa, a long way to run. Fa is the 4th scale degree. So is the 5th scale degree. La is the 6th scale degree. T is the leading tone, and then Do. So when you have chords getting a little bit more into tonal harmony, the 1 chord in a major scale is always major, obviously, because you have, okay, 2 terms that I'm going to throw at you, diatonic and chromatic. Diatonic means that it's going to happen in the scale, in the key, signature, without me having to raise or lower any notes. So if I were to play a D major chord, you would have to do a major 3rd from D, which is 4 half steps, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and it would have to be an F, because that's a 3rd away from D, which ends up being an F sharp. So F sharp is not in the key of C, but we need an F for that 3rd to make the chord. But F is. So you would have to use D, F, A, which is a D minor chord. So the 2nd chord in a major scale is minor. The 3rd, same thing, is also minor. 4th is major. 5th is major. 6 is minor. And then 7 is diminished, because it just pulls you right back there. But that's the diatonic chords in a major scale, meaning you don't add any accidentals, any sharps or flats. Those will always occur naturally in the scale, in the key. So, and then you can obviously, you have a million different harmonization patterns, but like typical 5/4 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. So I start at 1. Right? Sounds like every song ever written. 6, 4, 5, 1. That's like every pop song. So if I start on the 6, which is minor, in a major key, 6 in the key of C is A minor. So I play the A minor chord. 4 is F major. 5, 1. And then blues is 1, 4, 5, 1. But let me do the bass line. 4, back to 1, 5. That's 12 bar blues, but so okay, that's scale degrees in a nutshell. When you look, I saw that your homework, you're gonna have to like identify the scale degrees in whatever key they're in. So let's see, we're looking at A major. The fourth scale degree in A major, A, B, C, D. It would be D. But then we have to take into account, what is the key signature for A major? So let's go to A. And let's see, let's do a whole step, B, whole step, C sharp, not C. Half step is D, so D was right, D is the fourth scale degree. Whole step, B, whole step would be F sharp. A whole step from F sharp would be G sharp, and then a half step would go back to A. So the scale, the key of A major has 3 sharps. So C sharp, F sharp, and G sharp. So keep that in your head when you're thinking about these scale degrees. So fourth scale degree will be D. And D major has that F sharp in it, which means that D major will occur naturally in the scale, and it's the fourth scale degree, and the fourth chord is always major, and a major is scale. So that's a plagal cadence, by the way. So then, let's see, the 6 minor, what would be the 6th scale degree in A major? I'll pause, I'll let you answer. Okay, do you have your answer? It's okay if you don't. Let's go through it together. So it's F sharp minor is the answer. So we start at A, so we have 1, A, 2, B, 3, C sharp, 4, D, 5, E, 6, F sharp. And then we have to think, what is what is 6? Is it major or minor or diminished in a major scale? It's minor, so it would be F sharp minor would be the 6th chord in A major, or just the 6th scale degree would be F sharp. And then the solfege for the 6th scale degree would be La, because it's always La. If we're doing, no, you don't do. Let me know if you do do-based minor. Really quickly, I'll just end right here. Solfege for minor is the same, do, re, but because in a minor key, you take, say we have C major, so everything is natural. You have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. Did I do that right? And so in a minor, you lower the 3rd by a half step, you lower the 6th by a half step, and you lower the 7th by a half step. So all the solfege is the same, except for the 3rd, the 6th, and the 7th. And it's simple. You just, instead of mi, la, and ti, you go me, lay, and te. In a natural minor. Remember, there are 3 different kinds of minor: natural, harmonic, and melodic. And I'll go through those like really quickly right now. So natural minor would be do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, te, do, te, la, so, fa, mi, te, re, do. Okay, so to make a minor scale harmonic, we raise the 7th scale degree back up to T, okay? So we keep may and lay, and this time we'll sing it with T instead of te. And it'll add that, what's an augmented second, but it adds that kind of tension that the leading tone builds, because the te is a whole step under do instead of the half step, which kind of like te-do, te-do, like that wasn't the right notes, but you know what I mean. Instead of being, it was, which doesn't have as much pull as te-do. So, it's called the subtonic instead of the leading tone. So subtonic is the lowered 7th, leading tone is the raised 7th. So harmonic minor would be do, and hand signs, I'll do hand signs for major, not minor. Do, re, mi, fa, le, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. And then melodic is you keep that raised 7th, you keep the leading tone, but this time you add a raised 6th. And that's just called a raised submedium. Like it doesn't have a fun, different name. So it'll go do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And then on the way back, because melodic minor, you raise the 6th and 7th on the way down and then lower them on the way back down, on the way up, and lower them on the way back down. So we have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, la. Oh my god. Give me 3 seconds to regroup. Okay, back on it. Here it is. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, te, le, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Okay, so hand signs really quickly when you're doing solfege. We're going to go back to major. Do is here. I'm going to stand up because you have to get... So do is here at your belly button. This is do. Re is here. It's slanted up because it points to mi, which is here. Do, re, mi. Fa, because fa kind of points down to mi. Fa, sol is this. It's just like showing the back of my hand to you. Tuck the thumb in. So do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. It's just kind of like a little curve. La, ti, because ti points right to do.